The last 24 hours in Tory Lanez's life has been nothing short of a movie. This is like something I've never seen before, and I've been doing content for about 2 years now. This is insane, bro. We got a reincarnation coming back from the dead talking to God. We got stabbings. We got a shooting mystery. We got a potential Fed case being overturned. This is all insane. And I'm here to make sense of all of it and to cover everything. So let's get into it. Tory Lanez was stabbed 14 times in prison by a Mexican who's currently serving a life sentence and had to be airlifted from out the prison to a local hospital. Apparently, the injuries range from a collapsed lung. He got stabbed in the head, stabbed in the back. Tory thought he was a goner. He thought he was for sure dead because even with a collapsed lung, God gave him enough strength and fortitude to still be able to tell his daddy that if this is his last day, he made good with God.
Did not suffer superficial wounds. He was stabbed 14 times, 5 times in his back, 1 under his left cheekbone. In fact, his jaw was open. He was stabbed twice in the back of his head, and the rest in his torso, arms, and in his chest. It may seem sensational, but thankfully, like Dr. King, it was close to his heart but did not penetrate. After that, he was being rushed to a facility nearby in a vehicle in which he said, and I quote, "Dad, I thought it was my last. And having made my peace with God, I said, okay, God, is this how it's supposed to end for me?" But God said no. God told him, "Do not give up," in the car, upon which he turned to the attending officers and he said, "You must get me to wherever is the closest place that I can get to. I'm bleeding out here." He didn't even know his lungs had collapsed. All he knows is that he couldn't breathe. He could hardly speak. Upon which the officer turned around and looked at him and said, "Nah, we got to take him. He has to be airlifted."
There's a lot of conspiracies floating around surrounding why Tory Lanez was stabbed. Even there was conspiracies floated around at the press conference today with his father there and his attorneys there, and Roc Nation was brought up and Megan Thee Stallion was brought up, and we're gonna cover that. But before we can even cover that, we have to cover who exactly stabbed Tory Lanez. This is who did it. His name is Santino Sonny Castillo. The strangest part about this too is once he did it, the Mexicans were quick to come out and say, "Nah, bro, yo, he a renegade. He's not even a part of us. He's just like some renegade who just went wild on Tory Lanez. This wasn't a hit." I'm assuming that was said to sort of stall out the tension and to not cause a riot. There's only one thing worse than being stabbed 14 times and having your lung collapse, and that's being stabbed 14 times by a pedo. Sonny was sentenced to life in prison for shooting and killing his 30-year-old girlfriend after an argument. So the paperwork says that 2 relatives heard 22-year-old Santino Sonny Castillo arguing with his blank girlfriend, we can't say the age on YouTube, minutes before she was shot in the face with a shotgun. They testified at Castillo's trial on Wednesday. Castillo is facing murder charges for the death of his girlfriend, along with a special allegation that the crime was committed with a firearm. He is also accused of 2 separate attempted murders with the special allegation of using a knife and causing great bodily injury. So while in prison, he done stabbed other inmates as well, all right? So Ruby Perez, Castillo's cousin, now this is the disgusting part. There was a lot of people complicit letting this man live with that little girl. So live with the defendant and his little girlfriend, Evelyn Brenda Sandajas, in Perez's apartment in the 1100 block of East Avenue. Perez was getting ready to go out with her friend, Eileen Gonzalez, who was also related to Castillo, about 10 p.m. June 8th of 2002, when they heard Castillo and Sandajas fighting, and Perez saw Sandajas crying, she testified. Gonzalez and Perez went outside so that Perez could smoke. Minutes later, they heard a shotgun blast, Perez says. Within seconds of the shot, Perez and Gonzalez testified they saw Castillo running from the house. I met Casio at the door, Gonzalez says. He just looked really pale and shocked or scared and said, I've got to get out of here. He looked like a zombie, Perez confirmed. I've never been to prison, but whenever I hear stories of prison, it's usually tough dudes telling us how they regulate and they got morals and how guys like Sonny who do crimes like he did are not allowed to be on the floor with them, how they pack it up and roll it up and they go to PC. So my question is, why was this guy openly being able to live around people like Tory Lanez? Why was this guy able to have enough freedom to be, to potentially hurt Tory Lanez? I thought guys like this are essentially like subjugated to like the corner of the jail and they live in shame forever and they can never show their face again. It looks like he was having a good old time. Now, to me, the most interesting part about this, bruh, is how I've seen certain Latino creators was running to YouTube to say that this dude who stabbed Tory Lanez, he was not Mexican, and people like myself and Whack 100, we were lying, and it was another black man who did it to Tory Lanez.
It wasn't no Mexicans. It wasn't. I'm not gonna make this video super long and stretch the truth out because the truth is the truth. And I don't know too much of detailed information, but I know it sure was not no Hispanics. So whatever Whack 100 is saying, he's spinning the narrative, maybe trying to cause friction between the brothers and the essays, whether it's the Northerners or Southerners, it doesn't matter. I feel like, how is that man always the first one to know information? Am I right or am I wrong? How is he magically somehow the first one that knows everything? So with that being said, they told me it wasn't no racial shit. It was one of Tory Lanez's own people, one of his own races. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a riot. It wasn't nothing that happened inside of a dorm, which can only mean he's on the 1 and 2 yard. But I just want to clear that up with you guys and like this video.
You see how comfortable people are with lying on social media now? This man ain't getting no call from nobody, bro. This man turned on his camera, hit record, and said, hey, bro, I'm going to try to go viral any way possible, bro. And that comes with going against the grain, right? Lying and saying that it wasn't no Hispanics or Mexicans who did it, and we're liars, and the people who did it was actually black, and it was Tory Lanez's own people who did it to him. It was a backdoor. This is what I'm talking about, bro. I don't know what's the motivation for y'all to come on this app and lie with a straight face like that, bro, but that needs to stop, and that's out of control. And then somebody else will make a completely false story claiming, oh, Tory Lanez brought this upon. See, first it was, oh, a Mexican ain't do this, a Hispanic ain't do this, we could never do this. And now it's Tory Lanez brought it upon himself because Tory Lanez was talking about this man's wife. Man.
Once again, please allow me to give you guys yet another update, right? Because I did my background check. You can check out the full video on Renegade Media on YouTube. But this is the suspect that stabbed Tory Lanez, right? In Tehachapi State Prison. And I already explained why he stabbed Tory Lanez for disrespecting his wife at visit, saying a couple, derogatory words on the tier about his wife. And the man took initiative to defend his wife and stab another inmate. That's why I said it's not really going to be a racial war. And if it does happen, so be it. That's in prison. But I always said it was personal. But let me tell you guys why he's in prison.
Tory Lanez, who's like a multi-platinum, super successful, super famous artist, who probably got like women beaten down in jail to come and visit him. You think that man is looking at any woman who is coming to that jail looking for a man who was convicted of the things that Cassia was convicted of? Cut it out, bruh. That don't even, now respect to this YouTuber, because I don't know him, right? Because so I can't even call his credibility into question. Shout out to him. I'm just saying, I'm not buying it. Tory Lanez is a multi-platinum artist, bro, who probably got BBL vixens beating down that prison door to visit him almost every week. You think that man is looking at a woman who's there to visit Cassio? Man, cut it out, bro. That don't even sound like Tory Lanez's character. So, but there's various conspiracy theories floating around, right? So today, Tory Lanez's family and his attorneys, they did a press conference. And during this press conference, they also floated out the idea that Megan Thee Stallion and Roc Nation may be involved in this.
Recently, we've been made aware that a member of the media, Mr. Gianno Caldwell, was working on an op-ed for the New York Post regarding Mr. Peterson's innocence. During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
If Megan was managed by anybody else, I will look at Tory Lanez and his team and laugh him out the building. I would bro, get out. Bro, you're crazy. Like, what, like Megan Thee Stallion, like, put a hit out on Tory Lanez? But she's managed by Roc Nation. And the only man I feel like the industry fear more than Diddy is Jay-Z. Jay-Z is like Diddy, but Jay-Z is just way more cunnier, way more underhanded. Jay-Z is super slick. Diddy was just an absolute tool who was moving wild and free out here. Jay-Z is a mastermind. Jay-Z got somebody underneath him called Desiree Perez, who, if you guys don't know, she was working for the cartel before she wore a wire on a cartel. Desiree Perez is somebody who could pick up a call and get you more money than you deserve on any deal you want in this industry due to the stronghold she has on this industry. And it's still a mystery. It's still a mystery why Desiree Perez has a stronghold on the industry. Desiree Perez isn't somebody with a lot of experience. She isn't somebody who had this super and uber illustrious career in the industry. Desiree Perez essentially came out of nowhere, started working for Jay-Z after snitching on the cartel. And Desiree Perez right now is like the most powerful woman in the industry, and nobody knows why. Nobody has a clue. Nobody knows, bruh. Why is the industry bowing down to Desiree Perez? Is it because of her connection to Jay-Z? It can, because a lot of people is connected to Jay-Z. There's a lot of agents and employees at Roc Nation. Desiree Perez just happens to have the juice. And one can say it's probably the ties to the cartel. She probably knows how to make the skeletons disappear. So because Megan Thee Stallion is managed by Desiree Perez, and Desiree Perez have shown she has a vendetta against Tory Lanez, it feels like there could be something to it, man. I'm not ready to say yes, but Desiree Perez, man, and that subject is just... Desiree Perez is the only woman to ever openly rat, and every rapper embrace her. This isn't a woman who told as a bystander. No, she told after she was engaged in helping the cartel traffic hella drugs. This is a woman you don't want to play with, bro. Even me speaking about her, I feel uncomfortable. Tory Lanez is going up against some giants here, bro. I'll be real with y'all, bro. But them throwing that out there like that, I think it's kind of irresponsible, because if you don't know for a fact, I guess you're just throwing the facts out there. Hey, bro, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and you're not really assigning any links to what happened, but just putting it out there this way sort of assign blames to Megan Thee Stallion for Tory Lanez stabbing. Now, the evidence and the proof that they're talking about that the dude from Rolling Stone is apparently writing a story on is Kelsey, Tory, and Megan were the three people in the vehicle along with Tory Lanez's bodyguard. Those are the four people who know exactly what took place and who shot who that night. Kelsey testified. Well, Kelsey told the police off the stand when she first did her interview that Tory Lanez shot Meg. Meg said that Tory Lanez shot her. Tory Lanez is saying, I don't know who shot her, it wasn't me. However, there's been a lot of speculations that Kelsey is who fired the gun, because Tory Lanez's DNA wasn't found, gun residue wasn't found on Tory Lanez, etc., etc. Kelsey was never tested for gun residue. Well, Kelsey's bodyguard, who apparently was working for Kelsey and her husband, and I guess he's fired now, right? So her disgruntled security guard, or former bodyguard and driver, he has came forward to claim that he overheard Kelsey telling her husband that she was the one who fired the gun.
Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity, and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. Peterson, I'm sorry, Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun.
When it was announced last night, they had a press conference with bombshell information that will set Tory free. We thought they found a video of Kelsey doing this, but essentially what they said is hearsay, right? Like, I personally don't feel like this is enough to get Tory Lanez free. I don't feel like this is enough to get him a pardon. I don't think, an entire trial going on and then a disgruntled employee of Kelsey coming out and claiming that Kelsey was telling her husband that she was the one who shot Megan. That's not going to change anything, bro, like at all, bro. First off, the disgruntled employee ain't really that credible from the court's perspective. Now, again, hey, who knows? To me, Kelsey ain't 100% innocent in this. I don't know exactly what Kelsey's role is, but I think Kelsey did some dirt that night, which is why Kelsey had to get the full immunity before she testified. She got full immunity before she testified. Full immunity is for people who committed a crime and they don't want to incriminate themselves. So, but still, I don't feel like a disgruntled employee coming out and claiming that she said this is enough to overturn a conviction. It just won't happen. This is not a bombshell, to be honest. I think this, at the very least, is shocking, it's surprising, but no court is going to take this in as evidence, bro. It's not going to happen at all. This, to me, just sort of helped the public perception, but it's not really going to help the court case at all.
This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Ms. Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson.
They're saying a lot of good stuff, and a lot of stuff can possibly change somebody in the public's mind. But retrying the case in the public isn't really going to do anything for Tory Lanez from my perspective. Now, Tory Lanez being stabbed may be something. Maybe they could use this to parlay this into, I don't know, serving, like home detention, maybe getting deported early so he don't have to serve the full sentence. Because, bro, being deported back to Canada, a first world country, to me, that's a whole lot better than doing 10 years in prison. But y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think about this? Do y'all believe this is enough proof to exonerate Tory Lanez? Let me know, okay? And if you're still watching, man, click on this video here somewhere on my screen. Somewhere here, man, to find out why TDE, Kendrick Lamar Associates, why they're sending Adin Ross some credible threats after Adin Ross posted this video. Click on this video right here to find out what I'm talking about. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.